Hi friends, here in this video we are going to see how to calculate the length of a chain. In short, I am going to derive a formula for the length of the chain. As we can see in this diagram, this chain is similar to an open belt drive. So first I would be writing the formula for an open belt drive, considering that here this is the bigger sprocket and this is the smaller sprocket. Bigger sprocket, I'll say that it is having a pitch circle diameter of D1 and smaller sprocket having pitch circle diameter D2. Then P indicates the pitch of the chain, X is the center distance between the two sprockets. So I'll say that since length of open belt drive is given as pi into R1 plus R2 plus 2x plus R1 minus R2 whole square divided by X. As we can see here, since this is a chain drive, so the formula will be changing slightly, because in case of flat belt drive, the belt is wound around a pulley which is circular, but in case of chain drive, the chain is wound around the sprocket. So we are going to get a polygon here in case of chain drive, whereas in case of belt drive we are going to get a circle. So that is the major difference between the length of an open belt drive for a belt and then for the length of a chain. There is difference because in case of chain drive we are going to get polygon. Now I'll quickly write the terms here, that what are the terms which I'll use. Here I have said that D1 is the diameter of the bigger sprocket and it would be in terms of mm. T1 is the number of teeth on the bigger sprocket. So this sprocket has number of teeth T1. Similarly, D2 indicates the diameter, and when I am talking about diameter in case of chain drives, that diameter indicate the pitch circle diameter, because pitch circle is that circle which passes through all the hinge centers of a sprocket. So for the analysis purpose we have to take the pitch circle diameter. So D1, D2 both are the pitch circle diameter for the bigger sprocket, for the smaller sprocket respectively, having teeth T1 for the bigger sprocket, teeth T2 for the smaller sprocket. Next, X is the center distance between the two sprocket and P indicates the pitch or the linear distance which is measured from one hinge center to the other hinge center of a chain drive. Now I'll be using the same formula as in case of open belt drive, but I would be changing some terms over here. That is, starting with D1, I'll first be using the relation between the pitch circle diameter and the pitch. So since any pitch circle diameter is given by, it is P cosec 180 degree divided by T, and where this relation comes from, you all can refer my previous video in which I have derived this relation between the pitch circle diameter and the pitch of a chain. Now I'll put this formula for sprocket number 1, which is the bigger sprocket, and sprocket number 2 respectively. That is, if I am writing for sprocket 1, that is for bigger sprocket, this D will become D1, pitch remains same, instead of T I'll write T1. So the formula written in the form of the bigger sprocket, and similarly once I know the diameter I can write the formula in the form of radius as well for the bigger sprocket. So that radius will be small r1 and that is half of the diameter, so it will be P by 2 cosec 180 degree divided by T1. Next I'll write it for the smaller sprocket. Smaller sprocket denoted as D2, pitch circle diameter, so therefore its radius will be. Then after defining R1 and R2, in case of the length of open belt drive, here this relation pi into R1 plus R2 can be written as in the form of the number of teeth for the sprocket, because pi R1 plus R2 that was used for an open belt drive in which we were having flat pulleys. But here in this case, since it is sprocket, I would be replacing the term pi into R1 plus R2 with the number of teeth on the sprocket, and it can be written as now. Here this relation can be written because when we want to find out the length of chain, roughly I can say the chain which is passing on to the bigger sprocket and the smaller sprocket can be found out by using the relation pitch into the number of teeth on bigger sprocket plus the number of teeth on the smaller sprocket, that is pitch into bracket T1 plus T2 would be indicating the complete chain which passes over both the pulleys. But here, since I have to find out only half of the length, that is considering only half portion of the sprocket for the driver sprocket or the bigger sprocket, similarly half portion for the driven sprocket, so here this will be, I can say, pitch by 2 into T1 plus T2. Next, where I have written this formula for length of open belt drive, I'll denote it as equation 1. Apart from that, the center distance between the two sprockets x, I would be replacing it with another term, that is I'll say let x is equal to m into p, where p is the pitch, x is the center distance and m is a constant. Now I'll be replacing all the terms in equation 1, that is pi r1 plus r2 x and r1 minus r2 whole square divided by x with the values which I have got. So I'll say that now putting all values in equation first. So the first term would be, therefore the length of chain will be equal to, instead of pi r1 plus r2, I'll be putting it as p by 2 t1 plus t2. Next, after that, here the term is 2x, so x would be replaced by m into p, 2 into m into p, plus next we have r1 minus r2 whole square. So the values are, r1 is p by 2 cosec 180 divided by t1 minus r2 is p by 2 cosec 180 divided by t2, and here for r1 minus r2 it is whole square, so I have written r1 and r2, that would be whole square divided by x, and the value of x is m into p. Then after reaching up till here, I can say that the pitch p can be taken as common from all sides, so here pitch can be taken outside. Next, what is left over here is t1 plus t2 divided by 2, here 2m remains. Then as here it was p whole square which was taken outside, and since this is p by 2, so it will be p square divided by 4, that 4 will go into the denominator over here and p square would be taken outside. Then p and p would be cancelled, so out of that p square only p remains, so that p would be taken outside, so inside whatever is left I am going to write it over here. These terms are having whole square divided by, since it was 4m into the denominator, 4m, so therefore this formula can be written as in this way, that length of a chain can be equal to p into this entire bracket I'll be denoting as another constant which is k. I'll say this is equation A and equation A. So equation A gives the formula for length of chain, where this term k, where k is called as the multiplication factor, and this multiplication factor must be an integer value which should be rounded off in order to get the length of chain in a whole number. So in short, here k indicates this entire bracket, that is apart from p pitch, whatever is left, this entire term indicates K, and while solving the problems, once we know the value of K, we can simply multiply it with the pitch of the chain in order to get the length of chain. So in short, in this video we have seen how to get the length of a chain drive, an expression for the length of chain, and in the further part of the chapter we are going to see how to solve the numericals related to chain drive.